Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to another Story Bridge. I'm so glad that you could join me this morning for a story. I have an important question for you. Do you sometimes have feelings that hurt so much that you find it difficult to eat or sleep or think straight? Sometimes we do have feelings like that. Do you sometimes have thoughts that give you a knot in your stomach that just make you feel so uncomfortable, perhaps all day long? Well, that is a feeling that Nettie, the little girl in the story I'd like to share with you today, has. She has that feeling. You can see that she has quite a sad face. This is a story called Nettie's Trip South, and it was written by Anne Turner. Ronald Himmler drew the pictures for this story, and it's a very interesting story because it's all about feelings, heavy, difficult feelings that sometimes can come from our experiences, and then what to do about these feelings. This is a story that is actually based on a real diary. In fact, the diary that this story is based on was written by Anne Turner's great-grandmother. This story is set in the United States, in North America, I should say, in the year 1859. And in the year 1859, life was so very different than it is today. And this is a story about a little girl who's 10 years old, Nettie for short, and she is taking her very first trip away from her home, which is in the north, and down to a place called South Carolina, which is in the southern United States. And the north and the south in these days are very, very different. In the north, there are lots of factories and mills. Lots of people from all over the world are coming to find work. It's cold in the winter and hot in the summer, so the temperatures are variable. And people live quite differently in the north. But in the south, it's warm for much of the year. There are no factories or mills, but there is lots and lots of farming. And the trees are different, and the smell of the fields with the beautiful flowers and the crops growing, they're all very different. And there is something else about the south that Nettie is going to experience, and this is the thing that gives her these terrible, terrible feelings. And the feelings are so difficult to deal with, and it feels to Nettie as if she's carrying around with her a bag of rubbish. Can you imagine carrying around a bag of rubbish all the time? Well, that is how it felt for Nettie when she experienced these sad things that caused such a heavy feeling in her heart, and she didn't know what to do about it. Well, let's take a look inside this story. So Nettie, right here, is joining her brother and sister, and you can see that they have a horse and buggy, and the horse and buggy took them all the way to the train station. Here's a great big steam train that they'll be getting on to make their trip all the way to the south. And this part was very exciting. And if you've gone on a field trip, or on a road trip I should say, you know how exciting it can be to be going to a brand new place. Well, when they get to the south, they begin to tour around. And Nettie looks out of the train and she sees all these people working in the field under the hot, hot sun. There are mothers and fathers, there are boys and girls, and some children are quite young, and they are all working in the fields, working very hard, They look very, very tired, and they don't get any pay for the work that they do, and this is why they are called slaves. Well, Nettie finds that so distressing, and it causes such a difficult feeling in her that it's almost like garbage in to her little bag right here. And this is the bag that Nettie's carrying around with her, but she knows that inside there is garbage. It's smelly, like old rotten banana skins. As Nettie continues to tour around with her brother and sister, they find a nice hotel where they can stay. And here you see they've come to the hotel, and this kind lady is helping them. But Nettie discovers that this lady is also a slave. And when Nettie asks the lady's name, the lady says her name is Tabitha. Tabitha what? Asks Nettie, because she likes to ask questions. The lady says, just Tabitha. No middle name, no last name. Nettie feels that that shouldn't be, because she has a middle name and a last name. And she thinks that the only people who have just one name are not people at all, but pets, like her dog and her cat. And Nettie feels terrible for Tabitha. This shouldn't be. And Nettie feels that it's like garbage again. Perhaps like a rotten egg. Oh, does not smell very good at all. But that feeling goes into Nettie's bag, and she carries it around with her, and it makes her feel icky inside. As they travel on and they tour around, Nettie and her brother and sister get very thirsty and very tired, and they ask a man that they see, they ask him for a drink of water, and he goes over to his shack, and it's a terrible shack. It's a tumble-down shack with lots of holes in the roof, and Nettie is very distressed by this and doesn't understand why he cannot have a nice, warm, intact home to live in. Again, this gives her terrible, terrible feelings inside. And it's just like adding garbage. What do we have in the garbage? Well, oh, here's something icky. Oh, it looks like an old apple core. Oh, it's really icky. And that goes into Nettie's feelings, just like into her bag. And oh, I can smell that now. That's really horrible. But she carries these feelings around inside her, and they just make her feel more and more heavy-hearted. And inside the little hut, Nettie can see that there is an old man laying on a great big pile of rags, because that's his bed. Oh no, that's terrible, Nettie feels to herself. And again, it creates terrible, terrible feelings inside. More rubbish added to Nettie's feelings. And ooh, this is oh my goodness, it's like an old apple peel that's been in the garbage for a long time, and it's getting all slimy. And into Nettie's bag it goes with all the other rubbish that's in her heart. And she cannot get rid of it, and it follows her around wherever she goes. The next day, Nettie joins her brother and sister for a very special event. They're going to the marketplace. But when they get to the marketplace, Nettie cannot believe what they are selling. They are selling men and women and boys and girls. Nettie is so upset that she puts her napkin to her face, her handkerchief rather, to her face, because she thinks she's going to be ill. And again, lots more terrible feelings. Oh my, what is in the garbage this time? It looks like an old, smelly, oh my goodness, an old smelly sock. Into Nettie's bag of feelings it goes, and it mixes with all the other terrible feelings. And now Nettie is feeling so ill. And she cannot talk about it. And her feelings get worse and worse and worse. This is a gardening glove, and I don't know where it's been, but it is so awful and it smells terrible. And into the bag of feelings it goes. And now Nettie is overwhelmed with all these terrible and sad feelings inside that she actually becomes ill and has to be taken straight back to the hotel and put straight to bed. And the next day, Nettie and her brother and sister have to get back on the train and go straight back home up north, because it is just too much of a bitter experience for them to be in this environment where terrible things happen, but they feel, on the other hand, quite normal. Now, I find this a very fascinating story, boys and girls, because in my Bible, I find that the psalmist, King David, actually describes Nettie's feelings perfectly. And in Psalm 32, verses 3 to 4, this is what he says, and I'm reading from the Message Bible. And he says this: "When I kept it all inside, my bones turned to powder. My words became day-long groans. The pressure never let up, and all the juices of my life dried up." That's exactly the feeling that Nettie has after her experience. And she cannot get these terrible feelings out of her mind and out of her heart. Here is an old, dried up lemon peel. There's no juices in this at all. That is how Nettie feels on the inside. And she carries all of these feelings with her around wherever she goes. How will she ever get rid of this feeling? Well, boys and girls, there is an answer to that. As you remember, the psalmist says, "When I kept it all inside." That was the answer for Nettie. What Nettie had to do was to find a way not to keep it all inside. And so, at the end of this story, Nettie writes down her feelings and she shares those feelings with a friend. And very soon, she finds the solution to carrying around all of this rubbish in her feelings, all of this pain and all of this hurt. And what Nettie decides to do is to make a change in the way she feels, because she cannot control everything out there in the world and in the South. So Nettie decides that she is going to be and do the opposite of all of those terrible things that created these bad feelings. Nettie decides that she is going to love everybody, and she's going to treat everybody with dignity, with kindness, with fairness. Nettie decides that if ever she hears the word slavery, she's going to say freedom. She is going to promote the best life, not the worst life, and she is going to share that with everyone she meets. Boys and girls, that is what Jesus does for us. Whenever we carry around feelings, either for the things that we have done which are not nice, or the things that other people do which cause us hurt and pain, Jesus can take that away. All the garbage, all the rubbish, Jesus can take it away and he can put it where it belongs, with all the other garbage, leaving us free so that we can serve and worship him in the way we were created to. Boys and girls, I hope you enjoy that story, and whenever you feel sad, whenever you feel heavy-hearted, take it to Jesus, because he's the only one who can set you free. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time for another story. Goodbye. Bye now.